Welcome to my YouTube channel and welcome back if you're coming back. I appreciate you watching my videos. Yesterday was International Women's Day, and so I thought it would be fitting for me to do a painting with a short story. And today's short story is going to be the deconstruction of my internalized misogyny. So I felt that would be very fitting for International Women's Day this year. No, wait, why am I closing it? I need that. Oh, that was a lot. I am 27 years of age, and I believe the true, real deconstruction of my internalized misogyny really started when I was 24. That's not that long ago, but better late than never. So, and plus, I understand how young I am, so I think I feel lucky to have started experiencing this at a much younger age, But again, better late than never. And I talked a little bit about this in my TikTok yesterday, and so today I'm going to be diving into it a little more deeply today. That's what she said. And then I'll show you the results of my painting at the end. So, like many other people, I'm sure we've all, and probably still do, struggle with internalized misogyny. A lot of people probably don't even realize they're struggling with it. And that is the main purpose of me sharing my video and my experience, is to help spread awareness. It's good to start by first admitting to my own faults before pointing fingers and being like, that's kind of misogynistic and you should be better. No one's perfect, so. Hello, this is me the next day, because as I was in the middle of rewatching all that I recorded for this YouTube video, I was extremely focused on this painting while I was trying to share my story, the process of my deconstruction. And I was so focused on this painting that I feel like I wasn't completely getting everything I wanted to get out in my story. So I decided I'm going to delete all of it and go ahead and just retell it to you, because I just didn't like the way I was going about it yesterday. So, and plus, since I'm done with my painting, I'm not going to be too focused on it, luckily. So this is why multitasking is a little more difficult for me, particularly. So to get down to it, I'm trying to remember what I just said previously. So previously I was talking about wanting to spread awareness to our internalized misogyny mindset. And I still stand by that. I still believe that there's a lot of people who either are struggling with it and don't know it, or are struggling with it and know it. And so either way, it's always great to first start off by, acknowledging our own flaws. And I mentioned calling someone out on being misogynistic or having a sexist mindset or comments. I'm not saying that it's bad to call someone else out on it. I think that it's a good thing to hold our close ones accountable if they are the company we, choose to want to keep around us. And if that's something you personally don't necessarily like from them, if someone you're close to and you want to spend more time with acts that way, then yes, I think it's very mature of us and responsible of us to want to hold them accountable for it. You want to set boundaries, and I think that setting boundaries in relationships makes for a very healthy and positive and non-toxic relationship. And therefore, when you set boundaries and speak about your feelings, you can then find out whether or not the people that want to be in your life will stay in your life, Long story short, but basically, when I was a kid, my surrounding wasn't very, the stereotypical girly aesthetic or energy wasn't very practiced much around me and my siblings. And I'm not saying that we never indulged in like stereotypically deemed girly characteristics or anything like that, or activities. It was more just one of my older sisters was very into like punk rock and constantly indulged in that kind of aesthetic, and my other one was very into like neutral tone and very earthy vibes, and very, again, not that any of these things are not feminine or not girly, it's just, you know, during that time back then it wasn't necessarily deemed as they're stereotypically girly, if you know what I mean. Right now anything can be deemed not anything, but like, you know, I notice I can admit to that a lot of things can give off very feminine energy, and then a lot of other things can give off very masculine energy, and then a lot of things can give off very like non-gendered energy. So it's really what you're trying to go for, and then, you know, embrace it. Be honest with it. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. So since my surroundings wasn't very, again, stereotypically deemed as girly, I personally grew up, you know, with the idea that I wanted to be like my older sisters. And so for a good while when I was in elementary school, even though I really didn't have any fashion sense, I didn't start to have a real fashion taste and sense until I was like 23. And that wasn't that long ago. When I was younger, I wanted to embrace a more quote unquote tomboy look. That's what we would call it, or at least my sisters and my parents, you know, that's what they would call it, the tomboy aesthetic, which is very, you know, again, not very deemed as feminine, and looked more, as my sisters and my parents would say, boyish. But really it's just kind of like what is typically deemed as a very masculine vibe. But when I look back at it, there wasn't really anything masculine about it. It was just baggy clothes with darker colors. That was pretty much it. And for the longest time, I had my favorite color was blue, because colors like pink, purple, and red, and even yellow, in my mind, was deemed girly, and I didn't want to be seen girly. So my favorite color for the longest time was blue. And as you can see right now, I very much like pink. And I very much like purple. And I still like blue. My couch is blue. As of right now, I am an individual who can appreciate color for what it is, not because of how it's genderized, you know, because, I mean, again, color is genderless, all right? Let me just make that clear. Back then, I believed clothes, colors, activities were all gendered. But right now, I strongly believe, I'm just going to make my beliefs and values clear, that colors are absolutely genderless. Color has no gender. Clothes have no gender. And activities really have no gender to it, you know? And I know, you know what, we're not even going to have a debate on that. That's just what I believe. Moving on, some of the things that I had struggled with in my adolescent into young adulthood portion of my life was the idea of having girlfriends. And so it was kind of silly that young me would think this way, because young me had different groups of friends that were girls. But for like the longest time, I would constantly complain that, you know, it's really hard to have girlfriends. Boys are much easier to be friends with because boys are just easier to get along with, and girls are too much drama. Which again is such a weird thing for me to have thought for as long as I did, considering the amount of girlfriends I had throughout those years. Why did I think that way? I have no idea. It's the internalized misogyny. Not even trying to recognize and embrace that I had girlfriends that I got along with during those times. And really, I do think it's a lot of it has to do with being an adolescent, having, you know, adolescent emotions and feelings, you know, all unfortunately, back then, I was very boy crazy. And so I felt that, as a lot of people tend to, I felt like me being very anti-girly or like not like other girls was seen cuter and more attractive to the boys. Oh, it's so cringy. Like every time I think back at it, yes, I was that type of girl. And it hurts so much to think back at it. But I used to be that kind of girl who would complain and be like, I'm so unique and I'm not like other girls. Girls like, like a lot of makeup and high heels, and I don't even know, like at this point, like I can't even think about what I used to think about back then. Like really stupid stuff that make no sense. Really stupid misogynistic things. And I was definitely not a girl's girl. And I did used to have, I had a good handful of friends, both girls and boys, and I'm sure probably some non-binaries, but, didn't know at the time. And a lot of the boys, and I will admit to right now, like a good handful of the boys, I can tell, found me attractive and cute. And like, I could tell, but I would play dumb and be like, oh my gosh, like not even. So it's so cringy thinking about it. But like, I enjoyed the attention that I would get from boys because, again, because I'm unique and not like other girls, the guys would dig it. So it's so painful. Moving forward. So I would have a bit of a hard time like going into my young adulthood phase. I only had like a few, like my girlfriend list was shortening because, not because of really anything dramatic. It was more just life. Life hits us and friendships just kind of fade away, and that's just what happens. And during my young adulthood phase, unfortunately, I was surrounded by very toxic male friends, and I had only like one or two girlfriends at the time. And again, so I would presume to complain about the idea of like, ugh, girls, it's so hard to be friends with girls. I've given up being friends with girls because girls are too much drama. Boys are just easier to be friends with, yada, yada, yada. Stupid, sexist, and misogynistic things. And that just went on for a really long time. And I am ashamed. I'm ashamed of it. And eventually, I finally started, again, when I was like 23, I finally started to realize that I didn't like the way I was thinking, or like I felt and I knew that it was wrong. The idea that girls are too much drama and, boys are this and this and that. If anything, I started thinking, wait, boys can be drama too. And it's not even just a gendered thing. It's just people. Specific people can be too much drama. And that's not an everybody thing. It's not a gendered thing. It's just by person and by their personality. So one of the things that sucked during then too was that sometimes I would like shit on girls for being quote unquote girly, and I hated that because that's just so mean and wrong. Whenever I finally started thinking, reevaluating my mindset, I started thinking more like, oh, that's not right. And I did start wanting to acquire girlfriends around the age like 23, 24. And again, the deconstruction process was taking a while. It was a process. It's a healing process. And I started thinking, I want girlfriends now. I want to pursue acquiring girlfriends. And the way I went about that was I would kind of mold my own personality to match a certain energy level, a certain characteristic, a certain personality type in order to get along with, other girls that I would meet in order to gain a friendship with them, because I needed girlfriends because, girls, I gotta have girlfriends because everybody's got girlfriends because girlfriends. And again, this is still like, I still feel that I am still struggling with the internalized misogyny during this time. Because I'm still recognizing and I'm still observing people who are girls as just girls, you know what I mean? Rather than noticing them as just people beside their gender. Eventually, the few girls that I did become friends with during that time, you know, my personality, I have a very low social battery. It dries out really quickly, lowers really quickly. And I just couldn't continue matching their energy. And I'm not saying that, you know, matching someone's energy level certain times is bad or anything like that. I think that a lot of us do that at certain times. I feel you can still be a certain aspect of yourself, being true to yourself and authentic of yourself with a certain energy level that you put. At the same time, I feel you can be fake as well. And I do believe that I personally was being fake, not really true to who I am as a person. And so I not really lost those friendships. It was more like it just kind of died down very quickly. And that's okay. And recently, I came across, you know, becoming friends with one of my friends, Nicole. And if she watches this, I love you. And she so happens to be a woman, sorry, and a lady. Anyway, and so around that, whenever becoming friends with her, and even before her, there was this one girl, you know, that I thought maybe we'd be friends, you know, all this other stuff, you know, just thinking about like, oh, maybe a girlfriend, I might acquire this friend who is a girl. And I would complain about it to one of my friends, Dre, who is male, and, you know, tell him about it and how I keep wanting to try to acquire girlfriends, but, you know, I'm having a hard time because I don't know how to act around girls, you know, to acquire girlfriends. You see the dilemma. I was, you know, like my deconstruction process is still like in the midst of it. Getting to know my new friend Nicole, us bonding, us connecting, and not even just her, also like my friends now that I have in my life. You know, I really started to reevaluate myself, my mindset, my values, and my beliefs, and I started realizing it doesn't matter. Like, gender doesn't matter. I don't specifically need a girlfriend. I don't specifically need a guy friend. I just started feeling grateful for the people in my life despite their gender is where it got me. Because I was so happy. Like every time I would hang out with these guys, you know, one-on-one or as a group, afterwards I would feel just so good, happy and enriched and thriving basically. And I knew that it wasn't because of their gender. It wasn't because they acted like this or that. It was because they were themselves, and it was because they accepted me for who I am. They accepted my vulnerable side. They accepted, you know, my uglies, and they accept my honesty, and they accept my boundaries, and they respect me as I respect them mutually, and they respect my feelings, and that was the key, was that it's not based on gender, it's just based on human being and personality and characteristics. So I was literally, and I finally, not that long ago, really started to finally embrace my gratitude for the connections and the close relationships that I've acquired over the past few years. And again, I know that I'm still very young, so I'm very much looking forward to the rest of my life and any new relationships or connections I may acquire. And I'm going to continue being my authentic self as best as I can. And I'm going to continue encouraging my friends to also be the same in their own lives, because they do the same for me. They're very encouraging and supportive and real with me, and I appreciate that. And I appreciate that I can be my real self with them. And so with that, I'm going to show you guys my painting that I finished yesterday. I felt it would be fitting because I painted my favorite animal in one of my favorite concepts ever. It's a flying whale. This is one of my favorite things. And I'm gonna be honest, I'm not too proud of this work. And I'm not trying to shit on my painting. I'm not a painter. I'm not an artist. I'm not professional or anything. I just like painting for fun. But I felt it was fitting because I went ahead and added all the colors I used to be so not for or cared for years, because again, it was deemed girly. And this, some of you might think it's very feminine. I don't care. I think it's a beautiful painting filled with colors that are beautiful, you know? There's even, I went ahead and kind of showed, like, I feel like this whale skin color is kind of like a symbol for me, because I started off with blue being my favorite color, and I started morphing into just this beautiful creation of who I am nowadays. I'm a flying freaking whale is what I am. I'm just kidding. Anyway, I hope you like it. I hope you enjoyed the story slash the process of my deconstruction of my internalized misogyny. It takes work, but it takes us to make the first step in order to make a change in our surroundings and in our world and in our society. It takes us first. And that is why I do what I'm doing right now, is to first start with myself by being honest and being vulnerable and being real with you that's watching. So I hope you enjoyed. And if you have anything you want to say or add to, or have any opinions you want to share, or maybe an experience, that you relate to is with me, please feel free to share. And I hope that you take care of yourself, because you deserve it. You really, really do. Bye.